Hello and welcome to this brief overview presentation of PBIS. If you're viewing this presentation, it's likely because your school is interested in or curious about what PBIS is and what it can do for your students. PBIS, or Positive Behavioral Interventions and Support, is a system or framework that's rooted in research-based strategies used to increase quality of life and decrease problem behavior by teaching new skills and making changes in a person's environment. We're going to provide an overview of what PBIS implementation looks like at Tier 1. PBIS is not a program or a technique. It's a systems change process that schools and districts use. It encompasses more than just a curriculum for teaching appropriate behavior. It also addresses things like teaming, relationship building, effective discipline procedures, responses to inappropriate behavior, data collection and analysis, progress monitoring, and evaluation. Implementation of school-wide positive behavior supports leads to increased academic engage time and enhanced academic outcomes. The objectives of this overview are to illustrate some of those fundamental practices that are critical to PBIS and to explore what benefits implementation could have for your school. Let me start off by telling you a little bit about who we are. We are the Florida PBIS project, and what we want to do is increase the capacity of Florida schools to use planning and problem solving as a team to implement positive behavioral interventions and supports within a multi-tiered system of support. We do that by providing training and technical assistance to school districts in the development and implementation of positive behavioral interventions at the school-wide Tier 1, classroom, targeted group, Tier 2, and individual student, Tier 3 levels. So we offer training at all those different tiers, and we do this by engaging in not just training, but also coaching, evaluation, and data-based problem solving with your district leaders to help create systems that support effective practices. Implementing PBIS might require a shift in how you think about discipline and student behavior. PBIS represents a different mindset than traditional kind of discipline strategies we may have used in the past. What we emphasize is the importance of building relationships as a positive and proactive way to prevent discipline problems. One major focus of PBIS is to prevent common problems by altering the environments in a way that helps to support student success. We also stress the importance of teaching and rewarding those behaviors that we want to see. If a child doesn't know how to read, swim, or drive, we teach them. Why is it so difficult to imagine that behavior is any different? If a student is struggling academically, teachers will ask, is it a skill deficit or a performance deficit? And the same should be true for behavior. After teaching on academic skills like reading or multiplication, teachers provide students the opportunity to practice, and they provide corrective feedback. Teachers should be doing the same thing when it comes to behavior. So PBIS never assumes that students know how to behave. We always teach both explicitly and informally. With PBIS, our default response to behavior is to teach the skills that students need to be successful both in school and in life. This includes teaching self-advocacy, self-regulation, and conflict resolution skills. Student skills are best built by capitalizing on the strengths that each child brings with them and speaking in a language in which they and their families are fluent. Teaching includes also providing feedback on behavior, and that's what that reward system is for. The discipline process as well should include instructional consequences. PBIS requires that we teach behavioral skills and as explicitly and intentionally as we teach academics. There are many strategies that can be used to find time to teach and to incorporate these into our teaching. This example that you're about to see shows how we can integrate our school-wide expectations and align them with our academic material. This example also features ways to share those concepts that are being taught with families. We know that the appropriate behaviors that we want to see are more likely when we are consistent in how we approach behaviors, when we teach explicitly what we want them to do, and then when we reward and encourage those behaviors that we want to see. This approach really requires a positive mindset. What that means is believing and behaving that the so-called bad kids can be successful and worthy participants in our society, embracing the whole student, respecting where they're coming from, and providing opportunities for every student to be themselves in the school setting. Rejecting those stereotypes and labels placed on students, and rejecting the idea that there are bad kids or incorrigible youth, and getting to know every student's strengths and unique personalities. Rewarding behavior is a teaching tool that is used to acknowledge that a student has demonstrated an expectation. Rewards can be provided through specific verbal praise, tangible items, or positive experiences that are given to a student as a result of their good choices. All students, especially those students with challenging behaviors, should have the ability to receive some kind of positive recognition. This slide illustrates a variety of reward options. The Eagles attendance reward provides feedback to students as a whole on where they are in meeting the school's attendance goal. An individual positive referral that can be shared with parents highlights the positive behavior that that particular student displayed. And the other picture that you see here is a famous hip-hop artist visiting one of our Florida high schools and providing fun and inspiration to students as part of a big PBIS celebration. Each of these examples displays a way to solve common problems by setting a goal and then celebrating when it's achieved, instead of addressing a problem by writing referrals and imposing increasingly severe consequences. PBIS creates a supportive environment to help students succeed, emphasizing respect for student cultures and concerns. This means that adults share leadership and make decisions with students while also teaching students real-life skills that will help them as adults. Administrators, teachers, and staff should aim to understand where students and families are coming from and include their voices and perspectives in decision-making. A supportive environment builds in the time needed to build in these relationships and teaching of those behaviors that students need to be successful. Managing student behavior can be very challenging when we ourselves maybe feel out of control or out of control of our reactions to certain situations. So by learning and practicing the expectations and strategies that we teach our students, we can help students to learn to navigate those difficult circumstances by presenting that model to them of what we can do. By empathizing with students, learning where they come from, and teaching situationally appropriate skills to address their thoughts and concerns, we can begin to create partnerships with students that help them to feel connected to school and empowered to make good choices. What is the goal of school discipline? Is the goal to teach or to punish? When a student gets in trouble for their actions, is the goal of getting in trouble to prevent that behavior from occurring again? If the goal of discipline is to teach students to choose better options in the future, are we teaching students how to make those better choices? PBIS provides schools with an alternative approach to discipline, things such as social skills instruction, student conferencing, reflection activities, and these things can help to reduce and or prevent serious harm. It does require a willingness to include alternative strategies in our discipline frameworks. If we push students out, we lose them. PBIS requires that all staff adopt a preventative mindset about discipline. This isn't to say that we don't have punitive discipline at all, but we reserve that discipline for situations that require removal for safety reasons. Implementing PBIS means using strategies that build positive relationships with students. So this means recognizing students for those situationally appropriate behaviors that they're demonstrating and ensuring every student has an adult they feel they can talk to, restoring harm caused by situationally appropriate behavior, and working collaboratively with colleagues, students, and family members to implement an effective school-wide plan. Research supports students who experience positive relationships will have better outcomes. Positive relationships help to build academically motivated, ethical, and altruistic behaviors in students. Students who have positive relationships with adults can avoid a number of problem behaviors. That includes drug use and violence. Building relationship also includes ongoing collaboration with staff to receive feedback about what's going well with PBIS implementation and what things might need modification, and then reinforcing staff for all of their hard work in modeling those school-wide expectations. More positive interactions among all stakeholders can lend itself to a better school climate for all of us. PBIS is not a program that we can just like pull off a shelf or out of a box and implement. It's a process. It's been referred to as love informed by science. PBIS relies on evidence-based practices that work and that have research behind them to help support implementation with all students. It's values-based, meaning that it emphasizes practices that support the core beliefs of each individual school community and will directly impact and enhance quality of life. The vision of PBIS is that the practices implemented are doable and reasonable for one's daily way of work. When PBIS is implemented effectively, each of the key elements that are noted here are in place, visible, and actively evaluated for how effective they are. There are 10 critical elements that, when combined, create an effective PBIS process. It's more than just a reward system. These activities are led by a team of your colleagues, maybe you, and are developed in partnership with your students, families, and community stakeholders. When your team attends the 3-day Tier 1 PBIS training, they will learn about those 10 critical elements, what they're comprised of, and how they work together to help you to collaborate with staff, families, and students to build a plan that is specific to the needs of your school. PBIS is a framework. It incorporates existing evidence-based initiatives, and this slide illustrates many initiatives you may already use at your school. So PBIS is not something separate or a replacement for many of those things, but instead it's a way for us to make sure we're effectively using our resources to meet the needs of all students. At Tier 1, students are all provided with the same consistent message and methods regarding behavioral expectations, rules, and discipline. For the majority of students, about 80%, Tier 1 PBIS is enough structure and guidance for them to be behaviorally successful. But some students will need those Tier 1 strategies to be combined with other more targeted interventions for behavior. So at Tier 2, these interventions might include things like check-in, check-out, or group counseling with an emphasis on coping strategies, social skills, or anger management. And then at Tier 3, that's where we have those more intensive, individualized approaches for students who need higher levels of behavioral support. PBIS should tie everything behavior-related together. It provides a framework that addresses our responsibilities that are related to teaching those important life skills, supporting mental wellness, and ensuring positive outcomes for our students. It's not separate from other initiatives that you may have going on. It provides a framework to deliver the things that are on the right side of this slide. It also ensures that our practices are positive and instructional, and that they're organized in a way that leads to the best possible outcomes. So, at this point you might be asking, so what realistically is PBIS going to do for me And what is it going to do for my school? It is actually being implemented in close to 28,000 schools nationwide. That includes elementary, middle school, and high school. And it's one of the most widely researched approaches to supporting student behavior, with more than 150 peer-reviewed studies demonstrating its effectiveness. Implementation of PBIS can have a significant impact on outcomes for both students and teachers. Some of the student outcomes include reductions in major disciplinary infractions, antisocial behavior, and substance abuse, reductions in aggressive behavior, and improvements in emotional regulation. There have also been studies showing academic engagement and achievement both improve. Teacher outcomes include improvements in the teacher's perception of the overall health and safety of the school, reduction in teacher and student reported bullying behavior and victimization, and improvements in the perception of the school's climate, as well as a reduction in teacher turnover. Here's some of the feedback that we at Florida PBIS have received regarding the impact of PBIS on some of our Florida schools. I'll give you a minute to read some of the quotes. So what is next? Well, if you're interested in being part of your PBIS team, let your administrator know. The next step is for your school's PBIS team to engage in the full 3-day PBIS training. That training is going to give your school the information that you need to get started. If your school's PBIS team is interested in attending that full training and they have not already registered for one, they can contact the district's PBIS coordinator to request the training. You can also visit our website, which is www.flpbis.org, and get access to a wealth of articles, videos, and examples. If you're interested in more information about Florida PBIS, you can find us at our website, our email address, or on social media on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Thank you again for your time today and for your interest in PBIS.